Hi, everyone. This is Anastasia. I have not done a live in quite some time, and I've been getting some messages to come on and share, so that's what I'm doing this evening. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about guilt and regret. And something I think that most humans have experienced and felt. And I just want to speak a little about my experiences with that, and also what I've seen when I've worked with clients or even in conversations with friends around these topics. Um, so if you're here and want to say hi or have a question or comment, feel free to throw that in the chat. If you're watching the replay, let me know. So I was having a conversation today, and the topic of guilt came up. So what came to mind for me around guilt was, and I'm not one to hi, Carrie. Hi, sweetie. Thanks for popping in. I was like, oh, maybe I should look up the Webster's Dictionary of Guilt and Regret. And I didn't do that. So I'm just going to speak from my experience. So guilt to me is when we feel bad for maybe having done something we wish we hadn't have done. Or also it comes in the form of we feel guilty because we didn't do enough in a relationship, maybe at work, something like that. And for me, regret is a little similar. I'll talk a little bit about that a little later. So back to guilt. As I was talking to someone today, and I was reminded of another friendship that I have. It's something that I grew up with. I think from a standpoint of feeling shame and being shamed. And this is like from my family of origin is this just like laden full of shame. It's like a pastime, I guess. So it's kind of crazy. And I'm like working, and I've come such a long way to shake that off, because to me, shame just does not feel good. And if it doesn't feel good, I don't really want to swim in those waters. And a lot of times shame is coming from another person and they're putting it on you. So a lot of times in my experience, it's not even my shame, but it's like cultural or family, whatever. So anyway, so back to guilt. So for me, as I was in this conversation with this person, what came to mind was when we feel bad that we didn't do enough, say in a relationship. It could be at work. It could be with a partner. It could be with our children, friends, something like that. It's like if we keep churning that around and keep thinking about the thing that we feel guilty about, we're breathing life into it. And it's as if we have locked ourselves up in prison. We've decided that we're so bad that we're going to just lock ourselves up in a prison cell, and we're going to, what I said is throw the key away, but like throw it down a well. So like somebody's going to have to do a lot of work to go get that key to unlock the cell door. And when I got that image, I was like, I have no interest in partaking in that. That holds no interest to me. That is not fun. That is not productive. I'm not growing as a person if I'm sitting in a place of guilt and shame. Now, I am not saying that if you feel those things that you're wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It's a human experience. It's a human feeling. We're going to experience it more than once in our life. I'm speaking to the fact of, do you want to let that go? Do you want to, flagellate yourself, like just whip yourself over what you feel bad about? Or can you give yourself some grace? Can you come to a place of gentleness with yourself where you say, honestly, I was doing the best that I could. That is an older version of me. And at the time, and I want you to hear this, at the time that was the highest expression of myself when I did that. I was accessing the highest levels of compassion, of love, whatever word you want to use. And yes, we all have days where we don't show up as our best. We all have days when we are dead exhausted. We all have days where we have been tried by circumstances, by life, by the people in our lives. Absolutely. So, but I really still think, even in those most trying times, we are showing up as the best version of ourselves. We are doing the best that we can. So, again, to hold that version of you, that person that you were 5 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago, 2 years ago, 20 years ago, 40, 50, 60 years ago, to hold that person hostage, really think about that. Like, it's not somebody else holding you hostage, it's you holding yourself hostage. And you have the key. You can slowly, and I'm not saying that it doesn't come without some effort and some awareness and some attention to it. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be released in a split second. I do believe that that can be true for people. And for others, it's a process where they're having to feel it and let it move through them. Have an experience where that guilt comes up again, and they're like, oh, there it is. There's that guilt. There's that guilt today, but what it's doing is it's really touching guilt from a previous time. And so, how present can we be with that? How gentle can we be with that? And how can we say, I was doing the best that I could at the time? This was a version of myself that I'm no longer that person. And can I let that person off the hook? I find that I can be much more forgiving of other people than I can be towards myself. And I don't know if other people, like, percentage wise, are like that, but I don't know, there's a part of us that, like, wants to harp and beat on ourselves and all that. And yes, there is something to be said for striving to be better, but to constantly beat yourself up for a past error, or I don't even want to call it a mistake, but a failure, maybe you tried something, it didn't work. To constantly beat yourself up for that, I mean, literally, you've just put yourself in that jail cell, and you think that's okay, and whatever, you're going to sit there and you get your 3 square meals a day, whatever. You may not see the sunshine. This is a choice. And like I said, it does take work to shift and move out of that, but it doesn't have to be hard. And allow the feelings to come up if they do come up. So I'll try to keep this to around 10 minutes or so. I'll just share something personal about myself regarding regret. I've been thinking a lot, and in the past, I guess I'll say about 6 months or so, about my journey with my body and where I am in healing certain things that, quite honestly, have been going on for decades. And I really thought I could work on some of these things myself with my own healing modalities. Um, I know it may sound strange, but I thought I was doing okay. And again, I've shared this before. And for those that haven't heard it, I had 2 very, very minor falls last year. Nothing major, but they really sidelined me. And the first one was in August. I fell on my knee, like right on the kneecap, on a concrete floor. And it took a little while, but my knee felt better. So that was in August late August, I think. And then fast forward to middle of December of last year, and I fell down some stairs and landed on my tailbone and hurt that really badly. Didn't break it, but I hurt it really badly. So then I had to look at outside help, which I've gotten. I'm still working with some chiropractic care and still with acupuncture, which is phenomenal. And I've added some other things to that care plan for myself. Um, just in going back to regret, I can look back honestly at the last 10, 20, or 30 years and say, I regret not having done this sooner, having gotten the help for myself sooner. And I have said that to myself. I regret not taking action on something else. I regret being stuck in fear around X, Y, and Z. I have said that. I have felt that for myself. I also know that I was doing the best that I could in each of those moments and situations. So I can continue, if I want, to beat myself up and say, I wish I had jumped on this healing journey 30 years ago, 35 years ago. I can say that. I have said that. But what does it serve me? I didn't do it. Um, I, although I believe in time travel, and that's a different topic altogether, I really can't go back to my teen years or early 20s and at this point and have made, like right now, I can't time travel to that place and fix it and then have had like an easier time in between. I believe it's possible, but what I'm saying is I can't look back and go, well, I wasted this time, or I should have done X, Y, and Z. I didn't. Um, the patterns that I am now unearthing and releasing and working on have a lot to do with fear and programs around fear and being frozen in places where I didn't feel safe to move forward. So it's that fight, flight, or freeze thing. And I was conscious that I couldn't move. I wanted to move, but I didn't have the skills at the time. And I did not feel safe. And that's a big thing. And so I give myself grace for not having felt safe enough to move or move faster or make different decisions. So now that I have more information, now that I'm loosening the grips of that fear monster and those tentacles, I can make different decisions. I can make a little faster decisions. I'm not incredibly fast, and I don't know that I ever will be because it's not my MO to move really, really quickly with decision making. But I'm okay with that. It takes time for me. I need to digest an idea. I need to run the scenarios. I need to kind of strategize, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. Were there things that I could have taken action on sooner? Yep, but I'm not going to beat myself up for it. Um, I can forgive myself for that, knowing that the time is now for me to take action, and I feel safe to do so. And that's a big thing. These are topics that I help people with in my sessions, feeling safe, um, really look at dismantling limiting beliefs, things like that. Really looking at guilt and shame and regret. It's just some of the things that I help people with. So just sharing with you what's been coming up. I feel like when anytime somebody gets on and shares something, it's coming up for them. It's also coming up for the collective. So will this speak to everyone? Will everyone resonate with this particular message tonight? Not everyone, but there are people that will resonate with what I'm saying. And they'll be able to, pull something from it and hopefully have an aha moment, an awareness moment. My hope for you is that you invite more grace into your world, more gentleness, more compassion for yourself. The more that we have for ourselves, the more we can give to others. Like when our cup is full, that's when we can give the most. When our cup is half empty, that's the level that we're able to give to others. When it's really low or empty, we have very little to give and sometimes nothing to give. So we have to fill our cup back up. So this is really about your journey, where you are. I would just invite you to be curious about guilt, if it's something that is in your world, is in your awareness or not. And for some people, it's really not. Like, I think when I was younger, I probably swam in the waters of guilt much more than I do now. I don't know. For me, I haven't done anything so incredibly, I guess, for lack of a better word, like naughty that I would feel guilty for. I know that I have let people down, but that was not intentional at all. So, if I did, it was again not, I was not intending to hurt anyone. So for me, something that, that I'm still working on is releasing shame, which has been releasing for me, because I understand that it comes from programming from my family and their ideas around shame, and I just know that it's a limiting belief. It is one of the lowest vibrations energetically. It doesn't serve anyone. It keeps you just compressed and like on the bottom and feeling stuck, and like literally somebody is like pressing down on you. That's what that feels like to me. I understand that, for me. And so I will look at it and start to dismantle who said it, why was it said, what were they trying to get me to feel. And I really, it's very clear to me that, it's a control mechanism, and it doesn't come from a place of unconditional love, even though they may think that it comes from a place of unconditional love. I don't believe that it is, uh, from source energy unconditional, and so I release that. I just let it go, because I've been working on it. And the regret piece too, I will say it doesn't have a heavy charge for me today in this moment. Maybe tomorrow something will come up and I wish I had done blah, blah, blah. I wish I had traveled more. I have not had the opportunity to travel as much as, I've wanted to, as my soul has desired to. But um, I don't think that, my story hasn't ended. I'm not in the final chapter. I think there's, plenty of time to do that. So I look forward to the future, where the things that I may have wanted to do when I was younger, in my 20s, 30s, 40s, I can put that on my list now to do. So I hope this was helpful. Feel free to, like I said, if any of this resonated with you, feel free to leave a comment. If you are interested in some of the work that I do, I use a pendulum and, charts to clear, working to clear where people may feel stuck or blocked or limited. I work through the charts to get information. I work primarily to release, negative or heavy, lower vibration emotions that we carry in our body and cellularly. Work to release, self-esteem issues, limiting belief issues, money issues, relationship issues. And then once that's cleared, we replace with, sweet, love-based energies. And the shifts that people experience are pretty profound. They are pretty instant as I'm working with them. They're feeling it in the moment. They're feeling things in their body shift and move. And most people, I mean, I've only worked with a couple people where they didn't have these pretty massive releases. Most people say they feel lighter, they feel better, they feel more clear, they can move forward with a decision, or they're able to. A lot of times I'm working with people who are working to release a relationship in their life, or like a job situation that they feel stuck around. And after a session, they feel so much lighter and they can move forward. So if that is of interest to you, or if you have questions, I do offer 15-minute discovery calls. So you can schedule that with me, and I'll put the link in the comments. And I hope everyone has a lovely evening. No mosquitoes have bitten me just yet, but I think they're coming. So I'm going to go inside, and I hope everyone has a great night, and I'll be back soon. Thanks for joining me.